Hi, good afternoon. I'm Vicki Westling, here with our second show of City Speaks. And before I get started, I want to talk a little bit about what City Speaks is all about. This show came about as a part of the mayor's promise to the city residents for transparency, for change, for positive involvement in what goes on in our city. City Speaks is all about the residents of Dunkirk. It is your opportunity to let us know, to let the mayor know, and to let his administrative staff know what you like, what you don't like, your concerns, ask your questions, and just find out what's going on in our city government. So if you have questions, if you have concerns, if you have comments, email those to me at vwestling@cityofdunkirk.com. Mail them at City Hall, 342 Central Avenue, Dunkirk, or bring them into Dunkirk City Hall and give them to the city clerk's office to my attention, and we will make sure we answer your questions. We have some questions from last week that the show had taped prior to getting the questions, so I will try to answer those now. The first question was regarding the paper streets. A question came up asking, has there been any progress regarding the paper streets in the city? And how could the adjacent property owners purchase part of those streets? I referred that question to our city attorney, Richard Morrisroe, and this is what he said. He said that we're still working through this, but yes, the adjacent homeowner cannot buy the entire street, but possibly they will be able to buy the property that's adjacent to their own property. However, keep in mind that the city reserves the right to hold certain lots and paper streets for future development. Another question came in about the dog park. The dog park has been a really exciting thing that's been going on in our development department. The answer to that question was given by our Deputy Director, E.J. Hayes, who said that currently we're working on the entrance way to the park and the parking lot. And as soon as those things are resolved, the park will open up. Another question came in asking about whether or not landlords of rental property can be held responsible for the devastation or damage that's done to their neighborhoods by the tenants or by drug dealers. This question is another question that I referred to our city attorney, Richard Morrisroe, and he is currently researching the city codes and the charter. He knows this is a problem, and he will get an answer to us soon. Another question that came up was about our streets department, where a resident wrote in and said that they had seen a blacktop crew tamping down their patches by hand, and they asked about whether or not a roller was available for the city. I've spoken with our mayor, Willie Rosas, and with our Public Works Director, Randy Woodbury, who said yes, they are currently in the process of negotiating for a roller. So this last question, of course, is a perfect segue to our guest today, Michael Porpiglia. Mike is our DPW Streets Supervisor. And Mike, welcome aboard. We're so glad to have you here to talk about our streets and all the things that are going on. Tell us a little bit, how long have you been with the city? And basically, what do you do in your current position?
Well, I've been with the city since 1990, 91. I didn't start with the city directly. I worked as a clerk of the works, administering CDBG funds and overseeing water line installation and several blocks, such as 700 block of Main Street, 700 block of Grant Avenue, Deer Street also. There's several lines that were installed during that administration, which was Margaret Worsley at the time. Who was a great person to lead something like in the development. That was her forte, and she had good monies coming in at that time, and she put it to good use. And at this time, currently, and these people are benefiting from it, from all the work that was done in those years.
You know, that is very interesting, because I'll bet there are a lot of people who don't realize that you started working with the CDBG funds and with the block grant part of that. How does that now work in with the job that you're doing with our current CDBG administrator in our development department?
Well, every day you write a different chapter in the book. when you show up, because you know, you have the correlation of the monies and the project, how we're going to pay for the project, what you want to do with the project, and the actual development of the project. And currently we have a great development department here. Kudos to EJ and his staff and everybody. They work hard. We're seeing a lot of those monies come out now. It's clear. You can see it with Howard Avenue Bridge. I was just up there this morning. They're actually putting the blacktop down and finalizing everything. The water lines have been redirected up there, have beautiful curbing in there, and we're finally going to see that road opened up again. That's currently, and you know, and in the past, we've worked on several issues, everything from obtaining equipment, new garbage packers, to loaders, and structurally road development, and also additional water lines.
So you've really been through quite a turnover of administration.
Sure.
You know, you spoke about Mayor Worsley, and of course there have been other mayors since then, and then of course now we have Mayor Willie Rosas, who has taken on a tremendous responsibility for economic development, and we see the city growing and we see things happening. Not to mention the different directors that you have worked for in the DPW department.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit now about how do you manage all these changes with all the different personalities that come your way?
Well, it can be tough because, as most people understand, every time you change an administration, you go from one person's ideas to another person's ideas. But what a lot of people don't realize, once they get in office, they're actually have to clean up a little bit of the past, and then work on their structure. And Mayor Roses has done a great job with, you know, you can see the changes in the development office and other departments too that he's focused on, human resources with the training and everything that we've recently had, getting out there with the regional water authority at the filter plant, and plus, and probably one of the biggest projects undertaken in making several transitions has been the wastewater plant, which has always been front line for the city, especially in the Department of Development, because you can't have development if you don't have the infrastructure. So Sean Rayner, hats off, because that's one job that you really have to come to work focused every day and have a good mindset. And there's been several changes going on down there under the Roses administration, and Sean handles it well. And he gets frustrated, but we all do. But right now you're starting to reap a little bit of the benefits, a little bit at a time.
You know, that is great. And with the street department, it sounds like that you really overlap into a lot of different areas, because you also mentioned, laying the water lines, dealing with the kinds of issues that come across, and all of you supervisors work together. Correct. Very closely. And so there are quite a few of you who've gone through this whole process of change from one administration to the other.
Correct.
You spoke about the training that has gone on, and you recently participated, as well as the others, in the leadership training, management training. We've done diversity, sexual harassment, and of course, the shooters in the workplace. Active shooter.
Yeah.
But beyond that, you also do a great deal of training of those reporting to you. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, since my inception into the Public Works Department as a supervisor, we've extensively relied on Cornell Cooperative. They have a great program that we get literature, videos, that cover a wide variety of topics, everything from right-of-ways to paving to tree cutting. They do a great job. I take my hat off to them. Currently, this past year, the management training and frontline training and that the city's provided in-house is something new. from what I see, it's been well received. We had Lauren was a fantastic teacher.
Right.
Always, listened to what was, and she knew how to communicate to the other aspects of management and leadership, the different tiers, and messages were conveyed back and forth. Issues were resolved, and we still got a little ways to go, I believe, but it was a great initial start with the program itself.
That's good, and there is phase 2 will be coming along once we get through this summer
I'm sure
session.
it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, but you also have some new people, of course,
Yep.
in the summertime who
Correct.
come in.
Yep.
And then last year, because we had a retirement program where we had a lot of your people retired,
Yep.
you had to do some training of some new people that were
Yeah.
hired then on snow plowing,
Absolutely.
brush pickup.
Yep.
What kind of program did you go through for that?
Well, you make that transition, you take that experience. You've seen a lot of experienced people walk out the door and take the retirement incentive. Tom Plashesky, Ray Maku, I could go right down the line. I mean, we lost a lot of valuable experience that went out the door with them. Those guys you can call up at any time of the day, morning and during a snowstorm, and get them out there if there's a sewer backed up or whatever the question would be, and they could do it with their eyes closed. And like he says, now with the new hires, there has to be another training process. We try to provide them as much training as we can when we can afford to do it. They learn every day, sometimes baptism by fire, by watching the experienced veteran, what's left of them. You got Timmy Gatok was probably, he plays a crucial role, Timmy, in our department. He's our senior municipal worker, probably the best I've seen, and worked with. He can take these guys when we go out. Him and I sit in the morning, go through stuff and that. He'll take a group, I'll take a group, go through it, do the question and answer period in the morning, little tailgate session outside. We're on the work site and that, and the guys learn, and you see it, and they apply themselves, and then we just make the modifications to the way if there's anything that should be adjusted.
That's great. So you work with our senior municipal worker, and
Yep,
then we
Tim
have
Kotoko.
all the other municipal workers who have different
Yep.
functions. I mean, some
Yep.
are on the packer, some are tree trimming,
Yep.
and so you must, on any given day, just walk in and feel like, and begin to want to pull your hair out. How do you handle the stress of all this?
You always pre-envision what you're going to do for the day, but when you walk in and you listen to the answer machine or the phone rings, there's always a change or a twist, because not only we deal with several different issues, sweeping, and we have street sweeping, storm sewers, sanitary sewers, street lighting, tree cutting. I can go right down. There's 12 different budget lines that we handle. Traffic lights, and it takes a diverse amount of individuals to concentrate on different things. And any one of them issues can come up at any time of the day too, not just walking into work. It could be Saturday morning, Sunday morning, midnight. And when I pick up that phone and knowing that we have a great group of guys that work there, I can go down the whole line from top to bottom, and every one of them is willing to make that sacrifice to come in and do their job. I can't say enough about the crew that we have there, and how we accomplish and get things done.
Well, that speaks to your leadership, of course.
Well,
One of the
you.
things that knowing that you were going to be on today, someone made it a point to let me know that they were really pleased with what's happening with our street sweeper. So I don't know a lot about that, but I certainly pass along that compliment to you. Have we changed in the way we're operating the street sweeping?
No, we made some modifications to the broom itself. We try to get it out there the best every day that we can. Right now we're preparing what's called a surface treating. the roads, and the sweeper itself plays a essential role. Probably the primary aspect of it is cleaning the streets up and the curb lines that prepare them for the sealing process itself. So having that out there, having competent people on there, makes everybody else's job easier and reassuring also, which is the big part. When that machine goes down, it's like takes a little beat out of your heart, you know. But it's one of the things we always have Plan B in place, and that's where the experienced guys come in, and they know, look, okay, we've got an issue here. We're going to Plan B, and we get in there and get it done. The sweeper's essential because it's a preventative maintenance issue. You get it out there. You want to keep them curb lines clean. If your curb lines are clean, that means your storm receivers are clean. The water can get down them, and we don't get those phone calls at 2 in the morning. My street's flooding, and that. But yeah, so they take pride in that because they don't want that phone call. They don't want me calling them like I don't want anybody else to have to worry about that on their street. I mean, like I said, the primary concern of everybody up there is the citizens of Dunkirk, and these guys have the heart to do it and the will to do it, and every day they come in, it's at times we have to remind people that, but that's where their main focus is getting things done for the people of Dunkirk, and it's a great city.
Well, I think that's great, and I think that speaks well of you, because when people ride down the streets, the first thing they want to complain is there's a pothole here or there's something wrong there, and there's no way to keep up with everything. But I think overall our city is in great shape, and that, that's a reflection of who you are. I mean, they don't always think about, well, this is because of Vicki Westling or this is because of anybody else. I think, well, who's our street supervisor? So you've got to take great pride as well, and that must be passed along.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people really, I'm not going to say people complain, because I don't like to use that word, but they're always looking for a shoulder to cry on, and they vent. A lot of people like to vent, and we'll listen to it, and hopefully by the end of the conversation, or it'll be resolved, and everybody hang up the phone with a smile, or that try to get done what they want done, any request, and that they put forth, or we make them available. Yeah, we can do that.
That's good, because sometimes people just want to be listened to.
Oh, exactly, and that's 90% of the case. Right. And we get a lot of phone calls.
Yeah,
a lot of phone calls.
I'm sure you do. Many of the phone calls that you must have gotten was because of the storm we had last March. Mm-hmm. I mean, that had to be horrific. I know it was in my neighborhood. I mean, the snow was very deep, and I understand that the entire city was shut down, and there was a phrase that it looked like a lunar landscape.
Yeah.
So you and your guys had to really be on board. Yeah. How did you manage with all that?
The first primary storm came in the form of heavy snow, and we've seen a lot of people seeing damage, not only in the city right-of-ways, but also in their backyards. Branches were down, trees were down. Electrical lines were down, so it became not only the fact of making clear passage for emergency vehicles and for people to get to work and that, but also a safety issue. That was the primary storm. It was a lot to unbury. It took several days to get everything opened back up for safe travel and get the city running again, I guess I would say. The second storm came during the winter also, which was more a wind storm. It culminated more debris in people's backyards because people, I mean, everybody's just human, and they can't get this stuff out of their backyards to get it to the curbs. So we're trying to get as much off the curbs as we can. But as more of the snow melted, the more people were bringing out, which culminated to almost 3 months of brush pickup. We had circled through the wards two and a half times.
Right.
And it was a lot of brush, a lot of cleanup.
And I know that the guys were really just exhausted, but every time I saw any of them, they were all, willing to do whatever. They picked up extra brush and limbs. I know we had extra brush pickups because of this, because of the storm. So, and with that, we were fortunate because didn't we also get some new snow plows?
Oh yeah, we did. We have 3 new plow trucks that we have in action, and plus we retained 3 older trucks, which allowed us actually to put a truck in every ward, which is a good thing. And we also try to use 2 front end loaders at the same time. But the 3 trucks are very beneficial, just for the fact of the wear and tear on the old ones. And when you're confident enough, then it'll come in and something's going to run and work right, and it gives you peace of mind.
Now, how long does it take for any particular ward to get cleared from the snow?
Depending on which route, but it's more of an extensive process than people think. Each plow driver covers a lot of lane miles, and there's a few aspects and deterrents that hinder the process, and it's the on-street parking, which can be very burdensome at times because if you get a heavy snow, some people can't get their cars to the other side of the road, and you can't get down roads. But it also, what people don't realize is that a second crew has to come on later on in the day when they do move those cars. So you do the whole process over again. But the initial run for one driver averages 5 to 6 hours to make one pass, one complete pass.
So we're looking at the possibility then of 5 to 6 hours in the morning run, and then when they switch the cars over, another 5 to 6 hours just to clean those wards.
Correct.
That is phenomenal.
Yep.
And so now we have, are all of our municipal workers now qualified to operate or to be a part of the snowplow crew?
Yeah, prior to winter, we did a training program. We used the Firemen's Training Grounds on Brigham Road. We once again gathered a bunch of material from Cornell Extension. We held a day-long seminar with video and everything else, including on-hands training, walk-arounds of the equipment that we use, and that made everybody familiar with it. When it came time to go on the roads, prior to the storms, everybody did dry runs on their routes that they would be assigned to for the winter. And then when the actual snow fell, the younger new hires went with the older seasoned veterans and went through and made their routes.
Wow. So it sounds like it's really quite intense in learning how to operate those huge trucks. One of the things that came to my attention, because certainly when we do City Speaks, I always let the residents know who's going to be on next. And so once people know who's going to come on, then they'll start saying, well, what about this and what about that? And this is just a real feather in your cap, and it should be worn proudly, that you mentioned being called out at 2 o'clock in the morning, or you mentioned getting called when you least expect it, or maybe you've got other plans. And I understand that at one point there was a wire that was down, and I believe it was on Doty Street, and that you were the first to respond to that, and that not only were you there while the officers and the whomever was moving the wire, that you were there to help control traffic and to keep people safe. So does this happen often, that you're the one who gets called out in the middle of the night?
Yes. When they're in a situation where a tree or whatever takes down, if it's a car accident or and a pole comes down, a live wire or something, first main concern is to make sure that the area is secure. You don't have pedestrian traffic or anybody just in general walking around because of the live wires. It becomes a safety hazard. So initiate the barricades. We try to secure the area. We get the assistance of the fire department and the police department, but the street division comes in and assists with Niagara Mall. Once Niagara Mall comes in and secures the power, they come in, secure the power. We go in and clear the road, do the cut, repairs, or whatever's necessary.
So being a street supervisor is not just taking care of the streets, right?
No, it's yeah.
This city is really, there's a lot going on in the city. We have music on the pier on Thursday nights. We have all of the festivals, all the family picnics. We're going to have the offshore Grand Prix.
Yes.
That's happening in August, and that is going to be...
Everybody's talking about that.
Everybody's excited.
Yeah.
And you have a role to play in getting that word out by hanging banners and fixing parking meters and all those things on Central Avenue. Tell me about how do you feel about all that's going on here?
It's funny you say that, because that's when several departments come together, and always with the same concern, the city, and to make the event or whatever's happening successful. You'll see personnel from several different departments step forward for that. The parks, streets. You'll get people from water maintenance, and that who's ever willing to step up comes on board and initiates whatever plan is in place to make a successful event happen. So everything from traffic control to to sanitation, and keeping things in order, keep things moving.
Well, and you bring out the barriers for the roads. You bring out the trash barrels. You make sure everything is safe. It's cordoned off the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So you really have to work closely with not only the other departments, but with your own fellow supervisors, whether it's Russ Tennemore from Parks or whomever it may be, right? So those are the kinds of things that you do. Tell me how of all the things that you've done and all the years that you have been with the city and all of these little things that come up on a daily basis that you least expect, what is the one thing that you're most proud of?
Well, one thing I'm most proud of is to have my family all living in the city. I know it's not work related, and to have the opportunity to raise my family here, and under great mayors such as Mr. Rose. But I think the biggest accomplishments now over the past few years have been the lake wall along Lakefront Boulevard. One of them, seeing the bike paths put into place. That was one of the initial things I worked on when I worked for the city. That goes all the way back to 1990, 91. And to see things branch out from there in a positive direction. And every year something different, something more exciting to be prepared for when you show up to work. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I know, speaking for myself and certainly other people within the city and administration, and certainly Mayor Rosas, we're really fortunate to have someone with your experience, with your talent, and with your willingness to do whatever it takes to get the job done, and with the pride that you have shown in the city. So thank you. Thank you for being a guest on City Speaks.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Well, good. We're happy to have you. The next City Speaks show will feature our Fiscal Affairs Officer, Marcia Beach, and our Director of Human Resources, David Campola. That show will air on July 12th. So if you have questions about the financial standing in the city, what's happening in the Human Resources Department, please don't hesitate to send those questions, comments, concerns in. And if you have anything else for Mike that he didn't answer, send those in and we'll make sure we get him back. So thank you. Thank you all.